All right, like I said, welcome to another video of the Target Individual Program, Target Individual Experience. So again, you know, they are very, very particular in terms of how they target me, particularly today with the religious, BS, right? So I was speaking to my daughter, and I haven't spoken to Pam. I mean, I saw her yesterday, but I really haven't called her and spoken to her on the phone since what was it, Saturday, right? And so I finished after I got speaking to my daughter. Her she was came in the background. I was hearing her in the background. Like she was talking to my daughter. She's like, "It's time for bed." I'm like, "How is it time for bed?" It is, like I think it was like 7:20 something. Okay, or was it no? Yeah, maybe about seven, maybe 21 or 7:22, something like that. All right, telling the kids that it's time for bed already, but she hasn't even cooked dinner. So my daughter was like, "You haven't even cooked dinner," you know. So it's odd that again they're controlling her to come and tell the kids while my daughter while I was on the phone with her, so I can hear her in the background, right? Because again, I'm like, wait, it's time for bed. I'm like, what? Your mother's switching up now? I said, how all of a sudden how she switching up? Usually I'm the one that's telling you guys ready for bed. Most of the time she's locked up in her room, what have you, right? So anyway, so after I finish with my daughter speaking with her, I called my son. After I hang up with my son, immediately I get a call from this number. Don't know this number is, but again, they like the 666. I'm like, okay. Uh, anyhow, see, when you understand science and the truth, see what they are, what this is the thing. They know our ancestors, particularly African, black African ancestors, had created the sciences, right? Chemistry, biology. They were studying about these. And this is how they were able to preserve uh, bodies, the mummies. They were able to, they had operations, they had dental work. Okay, they had toilets. Okay, that's to tell you, they had dental works done. There was proof, evidence of that. Their religious BS. There is no evidence of none of anybody in the Bible except for Pharaoh Ramses again, right? And again, the timeline between with Pharaoh Ramses and Moses doesn't line up. Doesn't line up. Okay, so anyhow, so I'm just gonna educate. You know, so I love to educate people. Once I learn something, I love to share that knowledge. I don't like to keep it to myself. If you ever read what book it was that talked about how the Rome the how the the Catholic popes, right, during the Dark Ages, how they said that they destroyed the books that the Moors had brought to Europe to educate Europe, right? Because before the so-called dark period in Europe, right, when they drove out the Moors out of southern Europe, before that, when the Moors had ruled, the people were educated. There was a lot going on. They created, and teaching them how to change for their clothes for various seasons. Bathe perfumes were introduced, bathing soap, and all that stuff. Then when they drove the Moors out, Europe went into what is called the Dark Ages, right? Disease, plagues, because the people revert, and at the time they were also pushing their religion. So the people revert back to a very primitive state in terms of their health, in terms of their knowledge, right? And they were trying to prove that God could heal the sick from the Black Plague, which wasn't true. Eventually, they eventually went into the books that they said that they they destroyed, right? The books that the Moors, right, and the Arab Muslims had bought, right, and that was when they started again being sanitary and so forth. So, like I said, when you know your history, when you know their history, they can't manipulate you, no matter what. Okay, now that doesn't scare me. The 66 bullshit, because again, see, they understand, you know, the science, but again, religion is used to trick you, to deceive you. Okay, so let's look at what here. Let's look at the makeup of carbon, right? Carbon atoms comprise of a nucleus of neutrons and six protons surrounded by six electrons. See, this is where they get the 666 from. right? Because they didn't want their fellow Europeans to no longer follow Kemetic science and Kemetic spirituality. See, what they don't, a lot of white people don't understand is that before Christianity, Europeans, right? You had the the ISIS cults, what they call the ISIS cult, or the cult of Aset, okay, all over Europe, all over Europe. So this is what they try to hide, and they use religion, and they tell you don't, keep away from knowledge. Okay, so there you go. And so when they talk about 666, they're not talking about no devil, anything like that. They talk about the knowledge that black people had accumulated, that they stole from. Okay, this is why if you go and you read the book of Adam and Eve, right, it'll tell you God said to Adam when the devil or Satan was trying to trick Adam, and in the form of a woman. What form of woman was he? A black woman. All right. See, many of you don't know these things. Anyway, like I said, miss me with that BS.